Here's how I plan to stop cussing and why. You see, ever since I was a kid, ever since I was a child, I've always cussed. I mean, it's one of those things of, I would cuss around my friends and then around my mom, I wouldn't cuss, but I was cussing. And then I would accidentally cuss in front of her and she's like, "What'd you say?" Even though my mom cussed. But anyway, I just have found over time that it is just not beneficial to cuss. Now, I understand that a lot of people are going to defend cussing after they watch this video or even this part of the video. But for me personally, I just have found that there's no benefit to it, right? So a lot of people argue for cussing, saying that it creates emphasis, right? By using specific words like the F word, they're really conveying a sense of like umph to what they're trying to say. But the truth to me is that I think that cussing is just a lazy way to convey emotion or to convey an idea, because there are a lot easier and cleaner ways to convey that idea. But we just resort to the same words over and over again because, it becomes default. And I also think that if we are Christians, we should be putting out basically an image to the world that we are held to a higher standard, right? We are ambassadors of Christ, meaning we should look like Christ. And do we really think that Jesus Christ sat around and cussed? I highly doubt it. Now, there's a difference between cursing people and cussing, so swear words. I'm addressing swear words specifically in this video, so swearing, not cursing. And I just think that swearing, to me, like I said, I've always sworn, and over the years I've told myself that I didn't want to do that anymore. Like, I need to stop cussing. And I would try, but I would never have an actual system in place. And I'm going to talk about that today. But before I get into the how I plan to stop cussing, I just want to give a couple verses on kind of what helped solidify this decision for me. And again, you can disagree and make your own decisions, but I'll just kind of at least defend my position a little bit. Okay, so the first verse that I want to bring up is Ephesians 4:29. "Let no corrupting talk come out of your mouths, but only such as is good for building up, as fits the occasion, that it may give grace to those who hear." So I want to address that real quick. So first off, corrupting talk. We don't say cuss words because they're good words. We say them as bad words. Now, we might put them into like another phrase or something to motivate someone, or, to really, well, we do use cuss words even if we're excited. But again, I think it's just a lazy way of communicating. But it is corrupting talk. I mean, the words themselves are not good words, or they wouldn't have been censored for so long. They wouldn't have been, taboo, if you will, for most of our, history up until now. There's a reason that it's so widely used and acceptable now, because our standards has slipped as a society. So, and I also don't think cuss words build up. Again, you might attach a cuss word to something to build someone up, but the cuss words themselves don't build up. If I just say a bunch of cuss words, how is that building anyone up? It's not. It destroys. They are literally destructive words. And so there's really just no benefit there. But lastly, that it may give grace to those who hear. When I hear people cuss, I'm not thinking grace. Oh, this person is really extending me a lot of grace by cussing over and over again. Especially if, we all know those people that just use the F word or just cuss like constantly, like it's just littered in their vocabulary. And it's hard to be around those people, at least for me. Now, that's not to say that I'm like better than them. You just get tired of hearing those words over and over again, or again, at least I do. All right, the next verse that I want to share is Ephesians 5:4. So this is slightly after 4:29. "Let there be no filthiness, nor foolish talk, nor crude joking, which are out of place, but instead let there be thanksgiving." So again, I could get into some of the other nuances, but foolish talk. The Bible says that we're going to be judged for every idle word that we speak. So it's very important to kind of pick our words carefully. And if you're like me, sometimes you just think before you speak before you think, right? And so you just kind of say whatever comes to mind. And this has gotten me in trouble many times over the years. I have blurted out things that I wish I could take back, and I cannot. And I have to reap the consequences of that. And a lot of times, guess what? There was a cuss word involved. So it really, drove it home, so to speak. So, I just think that a lot of these cuss words could just be omitted and we could still kind of make the same point. All right, next is Colossians 3:8. But now you must put them all away: anger, wrath, malice, slander, and obscene talk from your mouth. What is cussing? Obscenities. I mean, sure, this might be a linguistic thing, right? This kind of an English language thing that we translate to. But still, even back then, they probably said words that just were dirty words, and maybe they're not the same exact thing that we use now, but it was obscene because they're just not necessary, right? It's like over the top. And again, we just kind of default to it. And my biggest thing is that if we're ambassadors of Christ, we should look different than the world. We should not love anything that the world loves. That's what John tells us. So if we look like the world, then how are we holding other people to a higher standard? How are we representing the gospel and we're representing Christ by looking just like the world? So, and this is what really convicted me on to stop cussing is I just look like everybody else. I'm not setting myself to a higher standard. I'm not standing out among the crowd because I look just like people who aren't saved or people who don't know Christ. All right, so the last verse that I want to share with you is Matthew 15:11. It is not what goes into the mouth that defiles a person, but what comes out of it. This defiles a person. What comes out of the mouth? Breath, sometimes vomit, saliva. But that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about the words. And think about it. Words are the most common thing that are coming out of your mouth. And so, maybe breath. But my point is that, again, we're going to be judged for every word that we say. And so it's very important to be conscious of the words that we're putting out. I don't want to say into the universe because I don't believe in that, but, out into the world, into, basically the people around us. Even this video. Take this video, for instance. Sure, this isn't a one-to-one to someone around me, but someone is still going to be affected by this video. Maybe they hate it, maybe they like it, but it doesn't matter. All of the words in this video, meant something in some form or fashion, and I will be judged for every word that I say, even in this video. So why would I not want to choose my words more carefully so that when I stand before God, I can say, yeah, I know I talked a lot, but at least I was trying to edify myself before you, or I was trying to lift you up. All right, so those are the verses I have. There's more verses, but again, I just wanted to share a few. Now I want to get into kind of the why and the how of how I plan to do this. So the why is just, like I said, I've always kind of cussed, and I am just kind of tired of it. And again, I've always told myself I should stop cussing, but I never put in a system to do so because I just feel like I want to give you a good example of why I want to stop cussing. So at my work, there was a young man that worked at our work for 6 months or something. He was there for a few months. And this guy told me, for a Christian, you say a lot of unchristian things. And that was very convicting to me. And he was probably talking about not only the cussing, but I had probably made inappropriate jokes too, just like everybody else at my work, which the Bible also talks about coarse joking. That was the first verse that I read in Ephesians. So, we shouldn't be making inappropriate jokes either. But for me, I just know that I was cussing too much. And for someone who wasn't Christian to tell me that I didn't look Christian because of the way that I spoke, it's kind of convicting, right? And it's not like I held it against that person, like, who are you to judge me? No, I took that as a criticism, like, oh, maybe you're right. Maybe I do need to watch this. But I never set up a system in place to actually stop doing that. So the system that I'm going to attempt to use to stop cussing is negative reinforcement. So when I was a kid, I heard about this idea of negative reinforcement, or maybe I wasn't a kid, but years ago. And basically, it's the idea of instead of rewarding yourself for doing good things, you actually punish yourself for doing bad things. And it doesn't have to be super dramatic, but ideally, the concept behind it is that while we do value rewards for our efforts, we actually hate to be punished more than we value rewards. Now, I don't know how true that is 100%, but I have tried like positive reinforcement, like rewarding myself when I break a habit or start a new habit and I'm successful with it. And I just fall off. But the idea with negative reinforcement is that, there is a punishment. Maybe something is taken away. Maybe it's like some kind of physical pain or, whatever, right? And again, doesn't have to be dramatic. Well, recently I was listening to a podcast and someone else that was a Christian was trying to stop cussing. And they were using this negative reinforcement method. And what they did, and I had heard this a long time ago, and I wasn't reminded of it until I heard this clip of a rubber band, right? And so I have a rubber band on my wrist, and when I mess up, I snap it. And so every time I cuss, I have to snap the band and actually snap it, not like this. Like I have to actually pull it back and snap it. And the reason for this is that you're kind of basically training your brain so that to associate the cuss words with like the physical pain. So a negative response. Now, it's not about the actual amount of pain, right? It does sting when I snap myself, but it literally goes away within like an hour, a couple hours. I don't know. It's not like a lasting pain. So the idea isn't the level of pain. It's just the idea of pain that comes as a result of the action that you did. And so doing this last like almost week has been actually really good. Now, I can't say that I'm to the point where I haven't cussed a full day, but I'm down to probably 2 or 3 times a day, which is great. In fact, doing this has actually helped me be more conscious of how much I cuss. In fact, I think that has been the greatest benefit so far. So I have not stopped cussing in just under a week, but I am down to just 2 or 3 times. Like I can count how many times I cuss in a day on one hand now, which is insane. And it's not that I was cussing like every other word, but I was cussing way more than that before. And I've even now stopped myself in the middle of about to be cuss. I don't know. When I'm about to cuss, I will stop myself and use an alternative word. So it's making me more aware of it. And I can even tell you like how many times I cussed each day. And it was like 3, 8, 5, 3, 2, 3. And so it's actually made it more conscious. So now I'm more aware of it. And I think that is the real issue here on why we have like bad habits that we just cannot break. It's because it becomes so ingrained in us, so second nature, that when we go to break it, it's hard to break because we don't even think about it. It becomes automatic. And so wearing this and doing that has made me more conscious of the fact that I do it, right? So now there's a punishment attached to it. So far it's actually been really good. I'm not necessarily recommending that anyone do this, right? It doesn't hurt that bad and the little marks go away after a couple hours. So it's really not that bad, but it has made me more aware of how much I'm doing it. So I don't know. So far it's been really good. My goal is to just stop completely, or maybe like once a day if I just slip up. But until I get to that point, I won't consider it a success, and I have to go a month where it's like 1 or less a day. That's kind of my goal. But yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts? Like, I'd love to hear, if you made it this far, what your thoughts are on cussing or swearing. Do you think it's okay for Christians, and why or why not? And if you have tried to stop it, what were the results? Or have you tried negative reinforcement? I don't know. A lot of different questions. I just would be interested to hear anyone else's thoughts. And yeah, that's about it. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.